Good day. Much love to you and yours. This is Siren Buddha Medicine, Regina's Rabbit Hole. Talk therapy. Thinking about gene therapy and DNA tampering, hacking, DNA treatments and stuff. So as I was listening to unauthorized unauthorized genetics or something like that, this show on Netflix, they're talking about gene therapy and the different upgrades and stuff that they have regarding changing the DNA. But I recall disclosure, things that they show you in the media through movies and stuff to let you know that they're already doing stuff in our world. And just like years ago, I downloaded the screensaver, which was attached to the satellite, and I could actually see myself on my front porch through my screensaver on my phone by hacking into the satellite. You could track the streets, you could see different views and stuff, and you could also you could zoom all the way into it, you could see me on my porch. So what I'm saying is that once they start showing us these things on the television, they've already been implemented within society. So remember movies like Resident Evil and Ultraviolet, movies like TV shows like Heroes, and there's a lot of other shows right now. There was a show that I've been watching recently, The Badlands on Netflix. They give you the disclosure that they're aware of people who have extraordinary DNA. The real war within the Matrix is on the people with the X gene. When you look at biological warfare and you look at what they're doing with the food, contaminating food, look at the chicken sandwiches and stuff, they're actually putting flesh and chemicals and stuff in some kind of super combo, that distorts people's psyche, makes them addicted to the food, and it's kind of like The Walking Dead, So let's take a look at these vaccines. Let's take a look at these vaccines. See, they got this thing called the CRISPR, where they can take the DNA strand, take a snippet out of it, and then insert that into another piece of DNA, thereby altering it. And so what they're doing is altering the DNA strand and doing all kinds of tests and stuff like that without the public's awareness. And there's a fight right now with the legal system on regulating this CRISPR technology. So the CRISPR can take a piece of DNA from one source, negative or positive, meaning beneficial or non-beneficial. It could be a disease, or it could be something to prevent a disease, or make a mutation, or maybe to try to correct some kind of mutation, and then implant it and sit back and wait for a period of time. And so there is these therapies and stuff that they have invented where they're charging a lot of money. Let's say somebody gets one shot and then continues to take shots every couple of years, or just say, there's different variations of how you can make treatments or get people sucked into paying for treatments that they've made through the alterations of this CRISPR technology. So what I'm getting at is all the problems that we've had with the vaccines and stuff. Unbeknownst to us, and I'm getting this so vividly from our ancestors and from spirit, that they can actually take, that's what this whole thing is, with the genetic modifications, is to be able to take the DNA and distort it right now, so that when the next generation comes up, they're already missing bits and pieces. Their DNA is already altered. So we're taking we could possibly, very possibly, be taking vaccines and stuff, thinking that it's meant to be helpful, but it's actually there to alter the DNA, so that when the generations come in after, not only the children that took that could be changed, just like when they used the CRISPR, but the children that, your great-grandchildren could also be affected. And what they're doing is that the future technology that they're using with this CRISPR technology with the labs, just like with medicines that cost so much money so they can make money, is that if you're born with a genetic defect, your parents could very well be paying a lot of money to make sure that you stay alive, so that their offspring could stay alive. So you could, just like medicines now, only you'd be paying like millions of dollars just to stay alive. Literally because of a birth defect. Now imagine your right to have children being taken away via a birth defect, like people being born with a time limit on them. You can only get so far or become so much because your DNA has already been altered via the vaccine. And then, if you want to get rid of that, you need to pay some pharmaceutical company or some CRISPR technology company to fix your DNA so that you can stay alive. To me, it looks like a little setup. It looks like that. That's what I was shown by Spirit when I was thinking about vaccines, and I was looking at that show, Unauthorized DNA or Genetics. It's unauthorized. Check it out on Netflix. And I've seen a lot of scary movies, but when you're familiar with the occult systems and with the straw man and with the genetic tampering and the with the genetic annihilation, that stuff is spooky. Looking at how sick our minds work. People who actually want to go to other planets and mess around with stuff. They want to move themselves to another planet without fixing this one. So it reminds me of the Matrix scene where that Smith was saying to he was saying to Morpheus that humans were a disease because they spread, and they don't know how to stop eating. They just consume everything. But it seems more like a message to the Smiths that that's their MO. Because what I'm looking at is these people wanting to travel all the way to other worlds and stuff. But they don't want to fix this one and get along with the creatures and the people on this one. They want to alter what is already going on here instead of fixing the way that they relate to it. And that's already a veto when it comes to God consciousness or having the consciousness of the Most High Creator. Is to bypass what is already here with non-appreciation, to step over it, just like you did with Mother. Put on her dress, take her DNA, and then fly off somewhere and play God. Is not going to cut it. Pun intended with the CRISPR. Slicing DNA and stuff. It's not going to cut it. Because the Most High has the last say. And another thing is that they wouldn't have to slice and dice and change so much of their genetics if they weren't out of order with the planetary spirit of the planet in the first place. Furthermore, on another note, when it comes to disclosure, we don't know what they also have not told us. We don't know that they haven't already been altering our DNAs with the vaccines, therefore cutting off genetics and abilities, and we don't know that they haven't already been suppressing things that our Creator wanted us to have in order to catch up. Because right now, I see them trying to gain abilities and do all this stuff, like, with that movie Heroes, like, and the show Badlands and The Gifted. I saw a clip of that. It appears the disclosure that I'm getting is that they're trying to alter their DNA, not just to fix genetic disorders that they're born with, but to enhance the body that they have, even if the body is adequate, and working appropriately, that they would like to enhance it, and make themselves what we would call supernatural, give themselves supernatural abilities. And so we see them going through this whole protocol by hook or crook. It seems like they're going to try to get it. There are technologies to where people can wear legs. People who can't walk can put on artificial limbs, like cyborg legs, as if, they have legs and actually walk. And we see this and we're like, yeah, if I didn't have legs, or if I was a soldier and I was shot, in a war or whatever, I lost a leg, bada bing, bada boom. They play on your sensitivities, your sympathy, your empathy. And you don't see it coming. That they could care less, really. That's the entry door for us to say, yes, it's a technology, because, if I had something wrong with me, I would want to be able to say, forget what happened by natural causes or natural selection or an accident just by chance. Things in the world naturally happen, right? I'm going to alter that with technology, and I'm going to change it. So now I can walk, or if mice get diseases from ticks, and they infect other things, but they eventually end up dying. And nature's selection is to make sure that they get an infection or a disease or whatever and end up dying. That's the natural part of the protocol. And then you take that away and you alter that mouse so that it doesn't get Lyme disease or whatever and eventually die itself. How do you know that you won't get an overabundance of rodents? You don't. And so you listen to them on this show talking about tampering and changing DNA, and they could care less about some of the major consequences that will happen. And as I listened to these new people wanting to change the laws and stuff for CRISPR DNA, like they're actually giving kits and stuff out of their garages and stuff, like small business and stuff, you got to think about what's been going on way before this with the Nazi paperclip situation, where they've been altering and doing altering DNA and doing all these things quite a while. And then it leaves you to think about how all these disappearances happen, right? Not just the organ harvesting, but how people are disappearing, and how, there could very well be dens of underground chambers or places somewhere with people in them full of labs, which they've also shown through disclosure in some of these shows. And it's also been, Bernie Mac was talking about an underground city where they had clones and stuff, and they were using them as like fighter clubs and all kinds of stuff. They have whole cities where they do stuff. There was a movie called The Island once, where it showed how the rich had an underground world where they had clones that they were growing in order to make sure that they had organs suited exactly to their DNA. So by way of the disclosure, we already realized that, some of these things are probably already going on. Another thing that came to my mind was California, and the footage that I saw where there were a lot of underground explosions and stuff, and they were talking about underground chambers and stuff like that. You know, I think of Disney World and that dude Walt, and how they said that, you know, he had a lot of underground chambers and stuff like that, you know, through Disney World. Like, he would disappear for hours and days down there. What was he doing down there? You know? You know, and it's just chilling, you know, looking at the amount of pedophilia that has been going on, you know, the sick behavior and stuff, that the body is not sacred to them. You know, I still get chills when I see Mr. Rogers. These are the people in your neighborhood. And he was, what is he? The president, one of the presidents actually liked him. He was friends with one of them. And it just gives me chills looking at the distorted behavior, the character that's been hidden against the one that's been put in public, where we're brainwashed to actually want to be like royalty, or want to be like the president, or want to be like an authority within our society, only to realize later on that these people were so infiltrated and corrupted and brainwashed. We're hearing so many stories of corruption and like very immoral behavior. You know, that you wouldn't be fond of being like that unless you would be fond of being demonic. And so, when you look back and you reflect on this whole thing, it looks very much like a setup. And those Nazi paperclip scientists are pretty much sitting back right now, watching the whole thing unfold and wanting to blame what they've already done and set up on those little garage CRISPR sellers and those little tiny labs that are fighting right now to get the laws overchanged and stuff. Because that's the illusion of the Matrix. You know, just like the illusion of the straw man. Those laws never meant anything. That's a part of the illusion and what makes the Matrix move and make the illusion. These other people are a part of the reality of the Matrix. And they already went and did what they wanted to do. They already made their moves. And they think 50, 100, hundreds of years in advance. Well, we're just getting a clue. So they're probably sitting back, rubbing their hands and waiting for the money. You're starting to collect the money to come in from the technology they've already done. And already have regulated it to decide who gets what. When and how much of a genetic change and information about the genetic code that you can actually have. So, yes, family, and they definitely have a butt whooping coming, because all we see throughout history is them trying to covet, control, and overrule and outdo the Most High. They emulate and steal from their mother instead of appreciation, because the earth is what gives us everything. So, the earth as mother, a womb space, a female, both men and both a male and female energy to embody a spirit. Whereas, the lopsided male cannot uphold spirit. It must be female to embody the spirit encased in both water and earth. So I would like to see, I know with this DNA CRISPR thing, they'll probably try to make it happen. One of these men birth a child. What is it going to do? Come out of their left ball? No, because what we're doing now is seeing women being abducted and their wombs snatched out of their body in order to further their research on putting female fetuses inside of male bodies so that they can inhabit a pregnancy just because of the envy. And that is just so distorted and demonic. It's not a democracy to me. Or maybe it is. Depends on you, if you know the play on words. But this is not play. This is for real, and this is for keeps. This is the real spiritual war. So we can come to the conclusion to surmise that the CRISPR is some cold-blooded reptilian technology. Word to the mother. Gene's Rabbit Hole, Siren Buddha Medicine. Much love to you and yours. Heads up, eyes open, family.